All right, hello everybody. Thank you for coming today to our lunch and learn. So everyone's coming in and getting their lunch and getting settled. I want to give an introduction to Green Spaces. And thank you so much for coming. My name is Madison Rawlings. I am the Director of Sustainability and Events here at Green Spaces. And I'm responsible for putting on events like these lunch and learns. Today we have Nicole Robin and Eric Asbo with us here today to learn about PACER financing and what that means for the Chattanooga region. But if you don't know about Green Spaces, our mission is to advance the sustainability of living, working, and building in the Chattanooga region. And we wouldn't exist with supporters like you, our members, people that come to our lunch and learns each month in and month out. I want to go ahead and put on your radar the Green Pre. The Green Pre is a program that we run here at Green Spaces, and it is a STEM education program for elementary schoolers, middle schoolers, and high schoolers to design, build, and race their own electric vehicles. It's a multi-day event. It's super fun. There's nothing like it in Chattanooga at all. And we are excited to be back at Volkswagen again as one of our sponsors and our hosts. We had our first race out at Volkswagen back in April of this past year, and we are going to be returning again. So October 20th and 21st, please put it on your calendars. We need volunteers, we need sponsors, we need participants to come out and cheer on the students of our region. Eric will be talking a lot about the climate action plan later, but some exciting news is that it passed through council this spring, and it opens up a lot of ideas and plans for things that the city wants to implement. So I won't say too much about that. I'll let him expound. Another one of our programs is Empower, and it teaches low and no cost ways for residents of Hamilton County and the 9 surrounding counties to reduce their energy burden. And a reduced energy burden means increased savings for families so that they can spend their money on essentials. Another thing to please put on your calendar is Green Drinks. Green Drinks is a monthly mixer for people that are interested in green spaces, meeting like-minded individuals, or you just want to perhaps get to know one of our hosts. We had a fantastic drinks at the Chambers building last month. And this month we are going to be at Wanderlinger Brewing. So put it on your calendar. Green Drinks is free and open to the public. We just ask that you help us RSVP to help our hosts get a heads up on how many people are coming. Wanderlinger is the only zero waste brewery in Chattanooga, and they're doing some really awesome stuff there. So come out and get to know them and get to know some new people. Green Leader is another program that we run, and it's a professional development certificate for individuals, students, people in their business owners that want to further their knowledge of sustainability. And we moved from UTC to Chattanooga State earlier this year, and we've had a big influx of our Green Leader participants. And so we would love to get more folks in and get this professional certificate that you can further sustainability in your business, home, or workplace. And speaking of businesses, Greenlight is another program we have, and we are always recruiting Greenlight businesses to come and have their environmental stewardship amped up to the next level. A big thank you to our founding partners, Compass Commissioning and Franklin Architects. And thank you to our top members right now, Scenic City Solar, Franklin Architects, Green Strategies, and New Terra Compost. We have a lot of members that make the work that we do here at Green Spaces possible. I'd love to give a shout out to H&K Architects, who just renewed their membership this year. We got some enthusiasm back there. I love to see it. And we have a lot of nonprofit members too. But we need more to be able to continue to do the things that we do for the Chattanooga region. And so you can become a You can become a member as a business or an individual, and you can support green spaces for as little as $10 a month. I'm also going to shout out our newest individual members, Whitney Walker, Chris Cusack, and Helen Pinkerton. Thank you so much for joining us this past month. Some housekeeping for everybody. Everything that you are eating on is compostable. So please, whenever you are leaving and we are keeping the space tidy, please put it in the compost. We want to reduce as much waste going to the landfill as possible. The only thing that isn't compostable is those aluminum cans that you're drinking out of. So set those in recycling. And without further ado, I am happy to introduce Nicole Robin with Petros and Eric Asbo with the City of Chattanooga. And I'm going to have Nicole come up here and let's get this started.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Nicole Robin. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, I don't have to say Tennessee, Nashville, and I work for a company called Petros PACE. So we are a lender and we do provide CPACE financing. So I'm going to tell you guys all about CPACE and what it means. All right, what is CPACE? By the way, who even knows the word CPACE? Raise your hand. So a few of you, and those of you who know the word CPACE, do you understand C well? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, well, a few of you. Okay, so CPACE stands for Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. So the commercial means this financing, CPACE is financing. It's a loan that we lenders can provide real estate developers and building owners. We can only provide this energy efficiency financing to commercial buildings. So all these buildings listed here, not single family residential homes, so not homeowners. Property assessed means that us lenders providing this energy efficiency financing, we get to go and file an assessment against the commercial property. And that is how we literally get repaid. And I'll go into details on that because it's really complicated. So the clean energy piece, I assume all of you are very interested in. CPACE funds can finance energy efficiency, renewable energy, water conservation, and resiliency. And I'll talk about resiliency in a minute. So this is how it works. This is why CPACE financing is really complicated and confusing. You have all those banks out there, right? Providing loans to do commercial development, you know, hospitality, mixed use, office buildings, retail. And either you go to a bank to get your financing to build those buildings, and also you go to your banks to kind of rehab these buildings. And if you want to put in energy efficiency systems, those banks don't provide you unique financing for those energy efficiency pieces, but we do. And so we need the state to pass legislation first, and that happened here in Tennessee. The governor signed April of last year. And then it trickles down, and each municipality or taxing authority then has to pass the ordinance, and Chattanooga did that. So we're very excited. That just happened recently. And now each taxing authority gets to decide who their program administrator is going to be. And Chattanooga's in that process right now. And Eric can speak to that. So once your state passes this, and then each municipality passes it, us CPACE lenders can come in and provide this unique financing. Oh no, that's okay. And so that's where we're at right now in Chattanooga. And then, like I said, I go and finance these energy efficiency items. And the way we get repaid is through a special assessment tied to the building. And that's what makes this whole thing very unique and why it's a public-private partnership. And I can go into kind of that whole special assessment in a minute. It's kind of getting into the weeds and a little complicated. So why is CPACE financing exciting that it's here in Tennessee and it's now available? It's because it's a low-cost, long-term financing vehicle just to encourage building owners to be more energy efficient, water efficient, use renewable energy, and be more resilient. The types of projects our financing can finance, the way CPACE financing is beneficial is for new construction, but also building retrofits or even gut rehabs or upgrades to existing buildings. So there's a lot of buildings out there that have really bad lighting, really bad windows, bad roof, bad insulation. They could come to us lenders and we can finance that entire thing. And it really encourages building owners to make that upgrade that is necessary and needed to lower those utility bills. We can also do this unique thing where we can come in and refinance 2 years after completion. So if an industrial building put on a whole new roof and insulation and LED lighting and a great HVAC system, and they had to use their own cash, and then they learn about our unique financing, we could come and close on financing and pay them back, but it has to be 2 years after completion. Our rate is fixed, which in the commercial real estate world, that's great because right now rates are floating, and that's been troublesome over the last couple of years. Ours is fixed. And I don't even think I have it on here, which I should, but our interest rates are about in the 7s. So mid 7s, high 7s. And that kind of interest rate for commercial development is a pretty good rate these days. A lot of commercial banks are in the 8s, 9s, and 10% interest rate, and we're in the 7s. So here in Tennessee, I can only finance up to 25% of your appraised value. So if you want to put on a whole new roof, HVAC system, lighting, plumbing, all the energy efficient measures, I have to go and do an appraisal, and I cannot give you more than 25% of your stabilized value. Low cost, this is not a high cost financing tool. We charge a 1% fee. And then it's up to 30 years. What we do to determine the term of your financing is we take the average weighted useful life of all the stuff that you're installing, and we can usually get to 25 years, sometimes 30 if you're really putting in great systems. All right, these are the buildings that we finance. So all CPACE lenders can provide energy efficiency financing to these kind of commercial properties. All right, I kind of rattled off all the items that we can finance, but here's a little bit of more detail. You can use CPACE financing to finance all the energy efficient systems in your commercial buildings. So your HVAC system, your boilers, your chillers, automation, LED lighting, basically the building envelope, the windows, the doors, the roof, motors and drivers. So renewable energy, you guys get. We can finance renewable energy. Unfortunately, a lot of commercial buildings are not doing this quite yet, but if they are, we would love to finance it. So water efficiency, low flow plumbing, you guys get all that. But we can also finance like rainwater harvesting. I don't know if a lot of people knew that. Gray water, wastewater recovery. This says water efficient appliances permanently affixed. We cannot do like, it has to be tied permanently to the building. We cannot come in and finance refrigerators and stoves in like a multifamily building. It has to be permanently affixed. Okay, so what's resiliency? Tennessee was kind of late to the game in passing the CPACE legislation. There's about 35 other states that have passed it, years ago. But one good thing that came out of being late is we allowed resiliency in the legislation. So us PACE lenders can finance this kind of vague term, resiliency, But like in Memphis, they have seismic code requirements, and it can be kind of costly. We can finance that. It's basically, what are you doing to make your building more resilient to climate change? So in Nashville, flooding is a very big deal. If it rains, the streets are flooded. It used to not be that way. So stormwater management's a big deal when you're building these buildings and you have all this, cement parking lot and, a roof. So they're having to do, Nashville's increasing its codes and requirements on stormwater management, and that stuff can be pretty costly. We can finance that. All right, so here's all the states that have passed this unique form of financing, allowing us PACE lenders to go in and provide financing. You can see Tennessee is an active CPACE market. We, my company Petros, we have funded projects here in Tennessee. Unfortunately, these other states have not passed CPACE legislation yet. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. We're hoping they do someday soon. All right. So why would people come to us and not a bank? Well, one reason, I'll go through all these reasons. We can finance 100% of the cost of all those items I just mentioned. So I'm not going to ask for you to put 20% down. I'm going to finance 100% of the cost related to HVAC, lighting, plumbing, roof, windows, doors. We say use us instead of equity, because to use your own capital reserves or go out and raise equity, it's going to be more costly than our 7.5% interest rate spread out over 25, 30 years. That's the next thing, is fixed rate, 30-year term. So you guys all get this. When you put in those more energy efficient items, you're going to lower your utility bill. You're going to have a higher NOI. And because we spread out our financing over 25 years, you should get more savings day one than you are in repaying our loan. That's why CPACE was even created 15 years ago. It was to encourage building owners that had not efficient buildings to go ahead and get it, upgrade everything and spread out the financing over 25 years. So you see savings day one, which is greater than repaying the loan. So that's the whole concept behind CPACE, encouraging building owners to be more energy efficient. The very last bullet is it provides economic development. This could be the tool developers need to do their new construction development or finally rehab that building. And a lot of the communities, including Chattanooga, understand that, and that's why they're passing CPACE. So, there's other benefits, no upfront costs. I talked about that. This is non-recourse financing. So a lot of building owners and developers love that. They do not need to provide us a personal guarantee. So it's non-contingent, it's not a contingent liability, and it's off balance sheet. Those are all positives. Immediate cash flow positive. It could transfer when you sell the building. So I think I should talk about that. I need to explain that. Lowers utility bills, increases the property value. I think you guys all get that. This is kind of getting in the weeds. Please feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in CPACE financing. I can go over the terms, and really talk about that it's non-recourse, our interest rate. One thing I want to point out that you guys may not, one of the obstacles to using this financing is mortgage lender consent. Sometimes the banks don't understand our financing and do not provide the consent that is necessary, but then sometimes they totally get it. And that's just, the more deals we can do in Tennessee, the banks are going to get more comfortable with it and understand how this works. Because we go and file a special assessment against the building as our repayment, that is unique. And the banks just are trying to understand what that means for their first position lien on the building. I can talk about that more if you guys are interested. And I'll ask about that in a minute. Let me get through this. So this is a slide that talks about how if you finished your project a couple years ago and you put all your equity into that new roof and insulation, we can come and refinance it and basically close on financing and provide you those funds back. Or you use higher cost debt, we could take it out without financing. So here are a couple quick examples or case studies. My company's been doing this for 9 years. We have tons of examples. These are just some that we threw into the PowerPoint. This is in Nebraska, Omaha, downtown, new development, hotel, apartment building, retail. And we did the things that I mentioned already: roofing, heat pumps, interior, exterior lighting, water efficiency. This is hospitality. This was a historic preservation of the Flatiron Building in San Francisco. We love retrofits and historic preservation, rehabs. Put in those energy efficiency items and we'll finance it. Multifamily, we do a lot of multifamily deals. Again, building envelope, plumbing, electrical, senior living. So we do it all. This is about my company, so a little plug. We've been doing this for 10 years. We have significant capital. We have up to billions of dollars to finance these energy efficient projects. This says that we can go down to 500K. I think our limit's really about $1 million these days, and we can do up to 200 million in PACE per project. And we have nationwide coverage. I live here in Tennessee, but my company's in Texas, and I think I might be the only Tennessee lender here. That's it. So if people want me to kind of get into the weeds about the property assessed piece, I'm willing to do that. But I think we're also waiting to the end for questions.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So now I'm going to turn it over.
Yeah, so we're gonna have Eric come up here and do his presentation. If you have questions, please make a mental note of them. Don't forget them. And we will be going shortly. Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. This is what a great introduction to CPACE. What is going to be happening is able to happen within Chattanooga. And I want to give a little bit of a broader picture about why the city has decided to pursue CPACE and how that fits in with the greater picture of the climate action plan. Madison mentioned earlier, the Chattanooga City Council in late March adopted the climate action plan. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about why that happened. Why now? Obviously, this is not from now. This is from a long time ago. I won't repeat the stories about what has been said about Chattanooga during this time period, but needless to say, we have come a long ways from where we have been. Our natural resources are one of our greatest treasures. They're why I'm sure a lot of us in this room enjoy and love being here. They're a major driver of our economy. They're a major reason that Chattanooga is as vibrant as it is today. We need to make sure that we are indeed preserving that for future generations. We're continuing to see increasing temperatures. This is a chart based on different potential emissions scenarios and average increasing temperatures. But we're already seeing the impacts of that today. We're also seeing increased weather volatility, larger storms happening more frequently in more places. We don't have to look all that far around us today. We can see it across the nation. We can see it in our own backyards happening all the time. The city has a long history of progressive climate action. Going back to 2009, the original climate action plan was adopted, and a number of other activities happening since then. But we know 2009 to 2023 is a really long time. A lot has changed with that. We need to make renewed commitments to our climate action going forward. The climate action plan includes 6 goals. I won't read through them here. You can see them here. You can also see them on the city's website. Go to city/sustainability, you can see this and lots of other details about the plan. So why CPACER? Why did the city just a couple of weeks after passing the climate action plan decide to pass the enabling legislation for this? I'll start by saying that our carbon neutral goal in particular has two components to it. The plan overall is focused on a lot of what the city municipal footprint is, as well as what our larger community footprint is. We are focused on 2040 carbon neutral as a city, 2050 as a community. The city is already doing a number of things focused on its own facilities and operations. There's a couple of pictures and examples. Large solar array at the Knox and Ben Environmental Campus. We've done facilities retrofits across the city's building portfolio. The downtown library had a large energy efficiency project, suite of projects that happened there. And just recently finished up the work on a public safety microgrid out off of Amnicola Highway to both increase resiliency. You can see solar panels there for generation as well as battery storage. But that is a small fraction of what the city itself needs to do, and an even smaller fraction of what the community itself needs to do if we're going to make meaningful progress towards being carbon neutral. So again, how are we going to achieve a zero carbon community footprint by 2050? It's going to take a lot of people working in a lot of different areas across a lot of different impacts. We know buildings are a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions in our community generally, whether that is commercial buildings, single family buildings, all kinds of things. We need to make lots of different options available for many people across the community to lower barriers to make those options for clean energy, energy efficiency, more resilience, easier, more often, as many places as we can. And CPACE is a really important tool for how we can do that. We're thinking about this as one slice of the pie that we think is really beneficial, as Nicole mentioned, not just in terms of like what the bottom line is for the individual developers. It's also moving towards accomplishing our climate goals. It's also helping drive increased business and economic development in our community. It wins all across the board. But again, one small piece of what it's going to take as a community to really drive down our greenhouse gas emissions overall. I think that is it. We can take some questions. That's all I wanted to say. Keep going. And
We'll just do.
yeah.
So we have some time for questions, everyone, and if you have them for Nicole or for Eric, please let us know. Anybody on the chat, if you have questions, put them in and Luke will make sure they come across.
You mentioned City of Chattanooga passed some legislation to enable CPACE financing. What's involved with that, and are other communities able to do that beyond Chattanooga? Municipalities in this region, what's involved with it?
Sure. Yeah. if you want me
Sure,
to answer it.
we can trade off.
So the Tennessee PACE legislation was written and passed and signed by the governor a year and 3 months ago. So now that legislation says this is what PACE financing should look like, and you know, that 25% cap, those are the kinds of things that are in the legislation. But it also says now we will let every taxing authority, city or county, decide if they really want it or not. And so Chattanooga said, yes, we want it. And so really, it's just a matter of passing the ordinance, and I'll let Eric talk about how complicated or easy that is. We think it's easy, us PACE lenders. You know, we will help you. We've drafted all the docs. We can help all the municipalities in Tennessee get it going. It shouldn't be a burden. There's no taxpayer money involved. It's nothing off of the city or county. It literally is an economic development tool where the city gets to say, hey, y'all, we passed this for you. You get to use it or not. It's totally up to you. And then we deal directly with those building owners. So Memphis has their program up and running, Davison County, I think Knoxville soon. I know Clarksville's doing it right now, Gallatin. I mean, there's just tons of cities and counties doing it. Just Chattanooga, which is great, is going to be the third one to pass it, or is the third one in Tennessee. So it was Memphis, Nashville, and now Chattanooga, and the rest are coming. So anyone can do it. Every county is welcome. and reach out to me and I can help them. But as far as like how easy or not, I'll let Eric decide, talk about that.
I think generally speaking, it's fairly easy. I mean, the state in passing it wasn't proactive in saying all cities now can do this, but made it up to, as Nicole said, up to the individual taxing authorities. There are, I know we've been in conversation with cities all over, not just Memphis and Nashville, Davidson County, who have done it and are starting to gain a little bit more experience with this, but there are cities that are interested in it across the state. And I think there are also models for what that enabling legislation could look like that could be tailored to any individual community, but are still tailored to what the state itself has enabled. So I think generally speaking, it is fairly straightforward and easy to pass that enabling legislation depending on the interests of the legislative body.
And I will say that my company's been doing this for 10 years. We have drafted all the ordinances and program guidelines, and we're just giving that to everybody who's interested. So I could just email that to you if you know of counties or cities. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. I think I saw you first. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that really quickly. So this whole concept of CPACE was created to be a really unique form of financing to literally encourage owners of buildings to do the energy efficiency and get it over with. Get those utility bills down and don't piecemeal it. Don't do the roof one day, windows the next day. And so out of that concept, because we're not a bank, we don't have deposits. We lend, we have billions of dollars to lend out. We go and we do not file a lien position. We let the mortgage lender do that. They're in complete control. None of their rights and remedies are affected, but we go and file an assessment of the tax assessor's office for our loan amount. And each year the city will put it on the real estate tax bill, the P&I that's due, the principal and interest, that 1 year that's due. And so you'll pay your city taxes, county taxes, any other assessments, and then you'll see PACE as a whole new expense on your tax bill. And you pay the city, and then they cut my company a check once a year.
So how do you qualify?
So per the Tennessee PACE legislation, we have to hire a third-party energy engineer who's going to certify and confirm that this developer or building owner is putting in energy efficient systems. We, the lender, do not do that. We let them do that. And there's been projects where once my energy engineer looks at it, he says, Nicole, they're just not picking a really great, windows or roof. If they want us to finance it, they've got to make it more energy efficient. And then I go back and say, if you want our money for this, you got to be more energy efficient. Yep. Tennessee's PACE legislation says above code. Yep. So our energy engineer has to pull the code for Chattanooga whenever we have a project here and really do a comparison and make sure it's meeting that legislative requirement. If I do a deal in Nashville, the energy engineer has to pull the code and figure that out.
There'd be a pre-submittal, meaning if I'm gonna go with time, the entire time process, they were engineering. Then on the back end, I realized that then the requirements. I have to go back and read time and do it.
So if you engage like me right away, the first thing I will do is have you submit a construction budget to me and we can run it past the energy engineer. And if there's some pieces that he says just meets code and it is not better, I'll let you know, and you can either improve it or not. You can just say, okay, instead of getting 10 million from Petros, I'm going to only get 8 million. It's going to be up to you. If you don't want to go and get your GC to get better specs or the engineer, you don't have to, it's up to you.
How long is the process?
So we do not hold up the process. We've been doing this 10 years. I can get you the energy report pretty quickly within a couple of weeks. We go to closing on the day the mortgage lender does. So if it's a joint closing, we're not gonna hold it up. We're not a slow process, we're a quick process. We underwrite it the way a bank would, so we work in partnership and staring at your pro forma, making sure all this stuff cash flows. Yeah, we're not, we don't hold it up.
And last one.
Yeah.
Who pays for the third party?
So the energy engineering report, no matter what PACE lender you go to, you have to have that done. It's per the legislation. Our energy engineering company that we use charges about $5,000 to $10,000 for that report, pretty much no matter the size of the project. So so it can be really huge, it's still only 5,000.
Who pays for it?
Oh, sorry, the borrower. We will use our funds. It'll be on the closing statement.
Chattanooga is a border city. And therefore, a company located in Chattanooga, somewhere in Tennessee, might be work on a project in Georgia or Alabama.
Mhm.
If the company is located in Tennessee, there's a project in there.
Yeah, it's where the project's located, because it's the taxing authority that we're working with there, it's the state government that we're working on with there, yeah. Alabama has not passed it, and Georgia has not either, but Atlanta has a PACE program that'll be up and running within a month or two.
But there's only certain gates lenders, is that right?
Yeah.
You're not, this is your company's primary
Yes,
title lender.
yeah, yeah. There's about, like, if you asked me, I think there's about a handful of PACE lenders out there in the country. I think there's only about 2 or 3 that are doing a really great job and know what they're doing and are very efficient and have billions of dollars behind them. There are smaller community banks throughout the country that are trying to be PACE lenders. And I think it fills a really great niche because they can do the smaller, the 250K, the 500K, the 1 million. And there is a company here in Tennessee that's trying to get up and running as a PACE lender. And I'm seeing that across the country. The more PACE deals, the better. My company's like $1 million or more, but a 250K upgrade is great. We should still be able to use PACE money. So I don't know who all the community banks are that are doing that, but I do know there is one here in Tennessee. Yeah.
That was one of my second questions was, but the limit was saying, that's your company.
That's my company.
That's not
Yeah.
PACE legislation.
Yeah, and the community bank, which is really a CDFI that's trying to get a PACE program up and running. I don't know exactly where they're at in the process. There's a gentleman here who works for one of the CDFIs that I'm aware of in Tennessee, trying to do those smaller deals and be available to provide this. And when I say PACE, it's financing all those energy efficiency things, and then it's tying the loan to the bill as a special assessment.
Maybe your lender comfortable with the.
So that's kind of getting in the weeds, but I'm willing to do it. So there's a couple different ways that we do that. One is none of the banks, none of the rights and remedies are affected by us being in the deal. The only time that it's going to be an issue is if the bank goes and forecloses and takes over ownership of the building. They're going to have to get any back taxes current. And that includes the annual assessment. Our financing does not accelerate, so you're not obligated, the bank, the senior lender is not obligated to pay off that loan, whatever principal amount is outstanding. It literally stays with the building until it's paid off. So the bank can go and sell it to a whole new owner and they'll continue to pay that assessment. Or the bank could go and sell it and make enough proceeds that they make themselves whole and take out the PACE financing. The other way to get comfortable is because this is like real estate taxes, the senior lender can make the owner escrow that payment, 1/12 every month sitting at the bank in an escrow account, so that if anything starts to go bad, the money is there to pay that PACE assessment. Does that make sense? And there's a few other ways that we do, and I take my card and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But we talk to senior lenders all the time, and I just met with one here in Chattanooga this morning for breakfast, and they're so excited about partnering on PACE deals. So I think there are a lot of senior lenders getting comfortable with it and wanting to do this. The building becomes more sustainable, energy efficient, higher NOI and higher building value at the end of the day.
Using the public buildings too.
No, if it's owned by a public entity, you know, no, we cannot. For the PACE legislation, we can't. Has to be privately owned.
I guess it could be, so the commercial phase, being private, the richest possibility in huge states. But do some states have a residential phase program?
I wish I understood that better, but I think it's only California and Florida that have residential PACE, and I don't think it's gone super well. And so I think most states are like, let's just not deal with the residential. The mortgage lenders on residential loans are not feeling great about PACE. And so Tennessee does not have residential in their legislation. It's only commercial building. Multifamily has to be 5 units or more rental, not home ownership.
Can you, I think it'd be important for folks to understand that this state was the building regardless of the owner. Can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so, because the assessment is filed at the tax assessor's office, it's literally tied to the building. We PACE lenders do not underwrite the owner, so we really don't ask for a personal guarantee. You don't have to provide personal financial statements every year. It's the building and how the building cash flows. What we have found, it's a 25-year term. So it literally could be tied to the building for 25 years. But we have found that a lot of commercial building owners, when they go to sell, they're selling it at a price that they could take out the mortgage lender and us. It is rare. We have found 15 years later, after doing this PACE financing, that a lot of the building owners do not negotiate with the buyer to take on that PACE assessment.
Okay.
Now, if you're putting solar panels on and you're really doing like geothermal and you're doing these amazing energy efficiency systems where the utility bill is 0, maybe the new owner needs to take on that, bill, but that's between the seller and the buyer. It's totally their negotiation and their decision. But I would say a majority of the people over 15 years pay us off when they go to sell. Yeah, there is a prepayment penalty. All PACE lenders really, we get a lot of our financing from the same sources, cost of capital. So you're going to probably you're probably going to pay a 1 to 2% fee, 1% fee on the outstanding principal when you go to prepay. It's usually 0 by year 10.
They plan to manage this internally, or are they looking for, it sounds like they're looking for a party to kind of manage the program. And then the second part of that is building all there wants to be paid something, they have to hold the later, they have to go through the first.
Yeah, I think for the first part, the city is currently administering the program. We are considering bringing on a third-party administrator for this, both just from a, to be frank, probably a capacity standpoint, and more importantly than that, we know that a third-party administrator who is getting up and thinking about the possibilities of PACE across Chattanooga is going to be pushing this out and making connections to drive this further than the city is going to be able to do on its own. We're still in the middle of figuring out that process, but maybe going forward with that in the future. And your second question was, who should they contact?
Yeah,
They do not have to go to the city first. Correct. So.
To that question, Nathan. I think most of the time the building owner or the developer learns about PACE and realizes that's a good fit and would probably start to call the different PACE lenders. We engage the city once we really get that application together, and us PACE lenders will put the application together so that when we hand it to Eric, it's ready to go. He could review it in a day or two. Like, we don't want any mistakes. We want that piece to be effortless and smooth. And so we'll put a solid application together, hand it to Eric. He'll review it. He'll make sure there's lender consent in there. And he'll make sure that we did that energy efficiency, energy engineer report or audit. And so those are kind of the two biggest things that we need a program administrator to confirm before we can go to closing.
And I'll just say to emphasize, like, this is really a CPACE and the enabling legislation that the city passed is enabling a relationship between developers, property owners, and the lenders themselves. So that's really the primary relationship. Sure.
I have a question. Can you clarify the 100% financing statement along with the 25%?
Yeah.
So like.
Yeah.
In other words, if I should be this much equity in my commercial building already, is that what you're looking for? Or do you mean that you only pay 20%?
Okay, that's such a good question. Yeah, so the question was, please explain the 25% loan to value number versus the we cover 100% of the energy efficiency cost. So here's how to explain that. Okay. Let's say you have $1 million worth of energy efficiency systems that you want to upgrade, to get the new HVAC system on and the roof and the insulation and the lighting. It's going to cost you $1 million. We will pay we will give you $1 million, 100% of those costs, if the 1 million is not more than 25% of the building's value. So we're going to go and do an appraisal. And if that building is worth 4 million or more, I can finance 1 million in improvements. Does that make sense? I hope that does to the question asked. So that's how that 100% and 25% plays out. I will tell you on new construction financing, new construction, land, hard costs, soft costs, we end up being about 20% of the capital stack. And when we go and do the appraisal, it needs to be less than 25% of that stabilized value. Roughly, once you look at your budget, your energy efficient stuff is about 20-25% of total development costs. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, for Eric. So this program is on the big climate action initiative. Is taking a bite out of the pie of commercial, which we absolutely need to do in order to make our way through to those goals. Obviously, the city has done a lot and has to do more. It's one of the significance of it in the trajectory for what we're trying to accomplish for our whole community. How do you see the commercial piece of the pie as far as a percentage or a slice of versus residential versus government?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think not trying to win, but I think my first answer is like we have to move on all of those fronts, right? But I think that it is maybe more than anything else, it is a tool that because of the state enabling legislation, it's a tool we're able to utilize right now. That's right in front of us. I think that commercial redevelopment and CPACE as a component of a larger economic development toolkit is an important component of that. But I think that does not do with the fact that Chattanooga's housing stock is both extensive with the number of people that we have, and in certain parts of the city is old and inefficient. And green spaces, we're amongst people who are thinking about that and trying to improve energy efficiency for people who need it most. And that's going to continue to be a focus. I think if CPACE is something that enables both the connections between the lenders and the developers who are already interested in doing these things and making that easier, lowering the barrier for entry for that, that means that hopefully we have, as a community, more capacity and ability to work with the folks that don't have that busy schedule. So, I don't know how to translate that into a hard number, but
Yeah, just, you know.
Yeah.
relatively speaking.
yeah,
I'm glad that Eric said that, because when we're going around and talking to cities and counties, we say the same, we try to convince them, and you already get it. There's so much to be done. And all you have to do is pass this one little ordinance, and then let us lenders, like you asked, like, let us work with the developer and say, hey, if you really want us to finance these things, you gotta do better. And, let us play that one little role. It's a carrot and stick financing. The whole concept was created to, if you want this unique, non-recourse, fixed rate, long-term, 100% financing, you gotta be more energy efficient. And so, the city's like, we've got enough on our plate. Let's let these PACE lenders handle this piece. So I like that. That's what we try to convince, it takes all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Are there any incentives for lower interest rate for nonprofits?
Not at my company. Yep. Our cost of capital is our cost of capital. We charge the interest rate, we do no matter. Yeah. It doesn't even fluctuate. Yeah, we're pretty, even if you have tons of experience, it doesn't mean you get a lower interest rate. We're in the high 7s right now. I have no idea, to tell you the truth. I have not heard of it. This is Mason. He lives here in Chattanooga. He works for a nonprofit called Pathway Lending. They are a CDFI. And I'll let Mason talk, because I really don't know, but I think you guys are trying to be a PACE lender for those smaller deals, because they have an energy efficiency loan program right now, but it's not PACE. And I think you're trying to bring PACE on. So chat with Mason if you know of smaller projects. I think they could be a really great option.
so I'll say I have not heard anything at the state level. I mean, so in Tennessee, that's not able to happen today, but I think it's another example of, like, if that is something that we as a state want to see, that's something we can try to make happen. Right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Anyone in the city now that's done a nice project?
Today, no. There are a number to handful, half dozen or more that we have heard are in the works, but today.
Yeah, we have a couple projects here, so we're excited to get to closing in a few months.
Yeah.
I think we're right at 1.
Oh, yeah.
Did we do it?
We're close.
Yeah, you guys are. Yeah, I'll do a little plug. I did bring my business cards, so if you guys want one, please grab one. And I am in Nashville, so I'm happy to come here and meet with you face to face and answer any of your questions. Thanks.
Can we give them a round of applause? I just want to say on behalf of Green Spaces, thank you guys so much for coming here today. A lot of information. And for anybody that may have had information overload, this was recorded. It will be on our website so that you can reference later. But always feel free to reach out to Nicole or Eric or Green Spaces if you have any questions. We have plenty of food left over, and remember to put your place in the compost. And I hope to see you guys at Green Drinks in a few weeks. Thank you for coming.